Hey there guys, it's METAGAMESGX here, and we're finally going to show off my in-depth Branded Dracotail guide for the new Justice Hunters Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG format. Now, this is going to cover several deck lists, including the one I think is the best up front. Also, we're going to get into a bunch of must-know combos for the deck that show you why this is going to be the best Dracotail variant and will propel Branded back to tier 1 status. With that being said, guys, leave a like down below, and if this video gets to 150 likes, we'll show off 3 more additional combos for this deck in the coming days. And also comment down below what your favorite part of the video was, and if you will be playing Branded Dracotail in the future. You could always check out all the links down below to help support the channel, including my website where you can find my Branded/Dracotail spreadsheet. So with that being said, guys, let's get right into it. So this is the list, guys. It's a 60 card list. Now, I'm going to justify it pretty quickly and not spend too much time on the fact it's a 60 card list. I think that this is the best way to run Dracotail Branded. I've tested 40, I've tested 50, I've tested 60. And without getting into the nitty gritty of it, I think 60 allows you to use the Dracotail engine the best with the Branded deck if you are running a bigger Branded engine. So if you are running a lower Branded engine, 40 is just fine. But I still think this is the most powerful and best into the format for Dracotail, because the new Magista support is not out over here, so elsewise that'd probably be the best variant, or there will be K9 Dracotail, but I think this one is also a contender of being the best Dracotail variant because the Branded cards add so much to the Dracotail cards. We're going to go over what the Dracotail cards do in the deck, and then we're going to go and explain a little bit about the deck list, and then of course we're going to get into the combos, and yeah, guys. So we are running a 9-card main deck Dracotail engine. It's definitely a bit more truncated than what you are used to out of a Dracotail deck, and I'm also at 60, so you might be like, well, why aren't you running more Dracotail cards? Well, you have to run the correct ratios with Branded to make it work well, I think. If you're like overloading with Dracotail cards, you might as well be playing a low to the ground 40 card build, or else you will just be bricking with a lot of the Branded cards that you need to play the Branded deck. So we're running 1 Dracotail Femina, and of course this is a level 5 spellcaster quick effect in the main phase. From the hand, you can discard it for cost to fusion summon 1 spellcaster or dragon monster from your extra deck. So this card synergizes highly with the Branded engine I mentioned in the last video as well, because a lot of the Branded cards are just dragons and spellcasters, right? You have Sanctifier, you have Albion and the Lubellion, which can then fuse you into a non-dragon or spellcaster if you need to. And then also Grand Guignol is a spellcaster. So, and then plus there are plenty of great fusion, generic dragon fusions like Chaos Star Source and the new Philia Regis, which we'll get into. So this card synergizes amazingly with Branded, and it is highly searchable through the engine. When you go through the combos later in the video, you guys will see that, you know, the Femina always gets back to your hand. So imagine a standard Branded end board, but then you also get a quick play poly on top of your Cartesia and things like that, which just adds a whole nother layer of interaction. And as you guys will see, when all the Dracotail main deck monsters are sent to the graveyard, you get to set 1 Dracotail spell or trap from your deck. So yeah, no, that's what Femina will do. So they're basically, they pay for themselves, right? Next, you have the Dracotail Muller and the Dracotail Urgula. Those are the only other main deck monsters you really need in Branded. You don't need to run Lucius. You can run the green guy because he also, you know, board breaks. But once again, I think as you know, the author of basically this deck said, like, you have to, you know, account for the fact that Branded has a lot of bricks, right? So you can't overload the bricks. So the Dracotail Muller is a dark dragon. This makes the whole build possible because you can send this off a Branded fusion and connect all the engine. It's also a quick effect in the main phase to basically Cartesia. It's a quick effect fusion, but for a Dracotail monster. So you can obviously get into one of the Altharion or the Grimmel on your opponent's turn if you end on this, which is pretty nice. But most of the time you're going to be sending it off of whatever, you know, you have, whether it's the Rahu Dracotail, or just you do get locked into fusion monsters, so that's fine. You're playing Branded. If this card is sent to the graveyard as a material, you can set one Dracotail Spar Trap from your deck, and then you can negate the effects of one face-up monster your opponent controls. So that is very good overall, right? Because it's a board breaker. So when you do the line to bridge Branded Fusion to Dracotail, you're actually breaking the board more than you would elsewise, and then getting to set a card, right? Because you have the Rahu Dracotail, which is the branded fusion of the Dracotail engine. You can fusion summon one Dracotail fusion from your extra deck using monsters from your hand, deck, or field, just like branded fusion. But, you know, all the Dracotail fusions require one Dracotail monster in the hand. One monster in the hand and then one Dracotail monster. So a lot of the time you will always be sending from deck a Dracotail monster and then one monster from your hand. So it's not as broken as Branded Fusion, but the thing is, though, it's great to layer with Branded Fusion. That's where the synergy between Branded and Dracotail comes in, because they just work perfectly together, right? Because Muller and Fimine are basically branded cards, and Urgla is the board breaker Branded never had. It doesn't do too much special outside of being a brick that allows you to recur your Fimina after you've gone through combo, which is very cool. But then also it can destroy one spell or trap on the field, and both Muller and Urgla do not target with their board breaking effects. So it's very important. Like, your opponent will a lot of the time just lose to not, you know, deal like responding on the Muller or Urgla, because, you know, it just doesn't target. So that's why I've noticed, you know, face up in the format, but a lot of the time that is just going to be the strengths of these cards. They're very good board breakers and extenders in Branded. But then you have the Ketsu Dracotail, which is also the Rhoda of the deck. So this is a nice card to be able to set off of your monster's effects. You know, you're going to be resolving 2 to 3 of these effects in the graveyard if you go through your Dracotail combo. So you want at least 2 different spells to set, I think, in the deck. And I'm choosing to also run the Dracotail Flame. I think I just want my going first to also have some pretty good, like, Mulcharmy lines, because if you just are able to, if you only have the Dracotail cards and you have to end on, like, you know, Altharion, at least you'll have the Dracotail Flame, and then Fimina to make another Altharion on your opponent's turn, and that's why we're running the double Altharion. And Altharion's broken. If this card is fusion summoned, you can target monsters on the field or in any graveyards up to the number of monsters used to as a material from the hand and return them to the hand. So this card's a board breaker and a recurrence. This card's absolutely custom and why you want to run it in Branded. Like, a lot of the time this card can get you back a monster that is out of rotation, right? Like, if you have Mirror Jade in the graveyard, you can go Altharion, bounce the Mirror Jade back. That's why we're only on one Mirror Jade, so we can afford to run a more diverse extra deck for the Dracotail engine. I think having 2 Altharion and 1 Grimmel makes it so all the cards get used, and you have plenty of, you can basically just board break through these like 9 cards alone before even going into the Branded engine, which is what is really cool about this deck. If you just have a Rahu and like a monster, which goes back to your hand, by the way, you'll basically be able to like deal with half of your opponent's board, and then you're like, great, okay, Branded Fusion, right? And then also a lot of the time they're gonna have to Ash the Rahu Dracotail, which for you is pretty good, right? If you get rid of the Ash and then you can go to Thrust and then to Branded Fusion, right? That's just like a perfect situation. So that's why we are also running the 3 Thrust. There's a lot of cards that synergize with Branded and Dracotail. I think that Cartesia is another one of them that is absolutely mandatory if you are running any sort of Branded Dracotail build, at least running one. But since we are on 60, this is a very good extender and starter for both engines. So I'm going to be getting into that once I finally explain the Dracotail Flame, which is targeting one spell on the field and negate its effects. So basically, this card also allows you to, you know, layer on your end board a spell negate. You used to lose to Called by the Grave, and Droplet's going to be very popular next format. Things like Dark Ruler no more as well. Dracotail Flame, that's why I'm trying to main it. I think it could very well be sided though, but I'm going to show you guys for the combos. But you could very well side this card just for when you do go first, because I think when you run all of these cards plus a Grimmel to Altharion, you have a lot of interaction to where you don't need the Dracotail Flame. But I think it is a very nice card when you are just, sometimes you're just playing Dracotail on like those very niche case hands. It doesn't happen a lot of the time, but sometimes it does. And what's nice is you can actually bridge Dracotail into Branded as well if you have cards like Branded Lost, because Branded Lost says you can basically search a Fallen of Albaz monster if you end up fusion summoning, so it's just very good interaction with each other. We're also running 6 Mulcharmies because for the non-engine, because it is a monster that you can send off of the Dracotail monsters. That you always need a monster in hand, so we need to run more monsters than not, I feel like, in a build like this. I think Fua into Yummy is incredible if you use it on your own turn, so you're board breaking, you keep drawing every time they, you know, resolve a Snatchy or one of their other cards. And then also you have the Perulio, which is just great against any deck. The issue is Canine, of course, and you don't want to get Paradise Smashed. So when you do go against Canine, you basically cannot resolve hand traps, guys, and that's why we're not running 3 Femina, right? Like, I think this is where the pure Dracotail build really falters, because it has an issue into the Canine engine, because Femina, you want to turn 0 Femina on your opponent's turn, but at the same time, when you do that against Canine, you just lose the game. So just same, you know, a lot of the time you'll just have to side out the Perulias, you know, for Drolls and things like that, and your board breakers going second against decks like Canine, which is totally fine. Because you don't want to get Paradise Smashed, right? Like, a lot of these decks can't really turbo out Paradise Smasher without putting all their eggs in a basket, from what it looks like from my testing. So I think a lot of the time having, you know, just if you're, you know, you're going against K9, and you should probably wait on your Mulcharmies because of that, except for Perulia. But, you know, for that reason alone, so you don't just get randomly Paradise Smashed, right? Same with Droll sometimes. Like, Droll, I won't even side in against K9 because you'll just get Paradise Smashed sometimes. Sometimes it stops it, but I don't know. That deck is very tricky, and that's why I like the branded cards, though, because they play around the K9 cards. You run a ton of spells, you know, Branded High Spirits, Branded Opening, and a lot of your important effects activate in the graveyard in the end phase, and the K9 cards can only trigger in the main phase. So that's why I think the Branded engine gives a lot more punch for the Dracotail board, which is typically very low to the ground, but gets a lot of advantage and card advantage back. And that's why it works in Branded, because it's a card-starved engine, but, like, the Dracotail cards pay for themselves, plus give you cards sometimes. So, like, it works together, and the cards are kind of like peanut butter and jelly. Like, they go together very well. They sit on top of each other very well. We are also running 3 Cartesia because this is the best bridge also monster-wise with the Branded and the Dracotail cards, because you can just generically fuse into a level 8 fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field. So if you have Cartesia plus any of your Dracotail cards or monsters, you can just go Cartesia effect to fusion summon into Altharion into your Dracotail combo with a Cartesia, and this is great on your opponent's turn. It makes Cartesia even a better end board piece now that she can make an Altharion on your opponent's turn. So I hope that explains everything for the branded or for the Dracotail branded, like, interactions together. There's obviously a lot more, but that kind of, like, summarizes it. So I do want to, like, also maximize on monsters that are great in the graveyard. So we're doing 3 Shrouded Dragon, 3 Saronir, right? Saronir fusing it off of Femina is incredible, or even Muller, because of the fact that, you know, you can just send a Branded Retribution to the graveyard and then you know, get there from there. I would like to run 2 Retribution. It's just hard, right? You have to really consider your bricks. I just valued a Flame over the second Retribution, but you could always main 2 Retribution, then side the Flame. It's up to you. I'm running 1 Lubalion because this isn't Master Duel. I'm still running Mercurial Tragedy. I think you still are playing Branded. Some games you are just going to be playing Branded with this deck, right? But a lot of the time, you know, if you have your Cartesia plus Branded Fusion access, you can just go Branded Fusion to the Dracotail cards, in my opinion, because it will get you more interaction, right? You will get a Femina in hand, you will get a Dracotail Flame, and then you can also get to a Grimmel, which is a quick effect pop on your opponent's turn, or either turn if you activate a Dracotail effect. If you chain Grimmel to the Dracotail effect you activate, you can then target a card on the field and then pop it. So this card is very good, but it gets chain blocked a lot. Your opponent has priority to chain a quick effect. Not everyone's going to know that, but eventually they will. So this card could be cuttable because it's just Yummy, and K9 have a lot of ways to play around this card being useful. It's just something to consider. But when you have cards like Branded Opening, which synergizes with the Dracotail cards really nicely too, because it protects them from all these popping effects, whether it's like Raisin and things like that, like you'll be able to, or just board breakers, right? Games 2 and 3, I think Branded Opening is really good with the Dracotail cards to keep like the Grimmel on board, right? So there's lots of synergies. Also, Branded High Spirits, all these cards are spellcasters and dragons, so Branded High Spirits with the Dracotail card is not bad, right? Especially if you already have another Dracotail card. Also, Ketu, I forgot to mention, is also a fusion summon, so this card is insane. It can get Dominus Impulse for that reason, but if they impulse it, sure, right? Like, but this card's insane going second. That's why I think it's mandatory. I've seen some Dracotail branded builds like this and not run it, and I think it's too important not to run, because if you get it off of your first fusion, you can go Ketu and then further board break, right? Because then you can search a Mooler and then send the Mooler to the graveyard plus a monster in your hand without having to summon the Mooler because you used your normal summon already, right? Or you already used your Rahu, right? So it's like, it's just absolutely mandatory so you can actually get into both Dracotail fusions, which is the goal of this build. I will just mention that both of the Dracotail fusion monsters have a great effect in the graveyard. If 2 or more monsters are sent to the graveyard at the same time while this card is in the graveyard, except during the damage step, you can special summon this card but banish it when it leaves the field. So yeah, guys, this is a great way to like use them for fusion fodder, like to make another Altharion or like Ophilia Regis, and then you can just immediately revive them, like if you end up like going Cartesia or something like that, or fusion duplication. So it's just great ways to like keep card advantage. I like 2 Quem for the grind game. We are running double Gwignall because it's a spellcaster that Phimina can make. So a lot of the time, if I'm on a simplified board state, I have like Phimina and Cartesia in rotation. As long as I have Albaz, I can Phimina into with my, you know, second Gwignall or something, and then send a Rinbrum to the graveyard, and at least I'll have Mirror Jade access or some other card, right? So I think that's very important for the double Gwignall. It's also just good grind game. I'm running the 2 Quem too, just so you can summon it off the Gwignall. So Gwignall always will connect you to a Quem. We're also running the 3 Albaz. You could run 2 in a build like this, but I think it's really important because, of course, you want the Albaz. If you have Albaz in hand with Phimina, I explained this before, but if you get a hand of, like, Phimina plus, like, Albaz, right, plus another monster, you can play on your opponent's turn and board break. So you might be like, why aren't we running 3 Phimina then? Because you have to get the ratios correctly, right? Sometimes it's just like, it's hard to run 3 Phimina without running a bigger Dracotail engine, because you can't always see Albaz, especially in a 60 card build. In the future, you know, in future builds, maybe we'll explore that, especially when K9 Ripper is not on everyone's end board to negate it and punish you, but you know, that's something like that. We are also running the 60 card build because of Grass Looks Greener synergizes very well with the Dracotail cards. If you end up milling Urgula plus Phimina, you can just recur back the Phimina to your hand and then just start doing Dracotail combos. And then also it's just a board breaker going second, essentially, because a lot of the time you can just like get to Branded Fusion, load up your graveyard, and then just overwhelm your opponent with advantage, which is pretty nice. And then going first, it's basically a 1-card starter that plays through Droll and Lockbird, which will still be there at least in the first month until a ban list drops. This guide is before the ban list. Whenever that drops, I expect Mitsu and Malice to get pretty much nuked, but until then, you know, we're still siding cards like Lancey and Droll. I'm not really going to talk about the side all too much. I think the side is really kind of irrelevant right now. This is a highly tested side though, guys, so it is pretty good. I think you want a combination of board breakers and ways to play around hand traps, right? You're going to side out. You need 6 sides for the Mulcharmies going first, so I'm running 3 Nadir, 2 Fusion Duplication, then you can choose what the 6th card is, depending on the matchup, right? And the fact that Thrust can also get you into Rahu is just crazy. There's just so much synergy behind the cards. I still run Kit. I like Kit because it's just good recurrence. You can actually spin back the Kit, so you can get Branded Fusion back from the banish pile. With the Altharion. So it's just like, Altharion just helps you have infinite recursion, and it works very well in a build with only 1 Branded Fusion. You know, hopefully Branded Fusion comes back to 2 on the ban list. But and the last point I want to talk about is the Ido. I think Ido is probably mandatory next format. Like, yeah, you can get away with not running it, but let's not try to be cute anymore. We need to probably be running this thing to deal with the format. The new decks are very good. Yummy Swarms, Canine Swarms. If you give those decks an inch, they take a mile. So you just need to be running the Ido, in my opinion. It is going to be a very good way to layer your end boards of Dracotail plus Branded, right? If you can end on because you can also run the Light and Darkness Dragonlord in a build like this, I think. So that is something to consider. I'm currently just running Chaos Star Source. I would love to run 2 Chaos Star Source, right? But I'm choosing to run the Ophilia Regis because this card's also very good with the Branded cards. You get to bounce back a Dragon. You can bounce back an Altharion and then remake the Altharion, and then you can bash a card. This is also Samjang for like the 5th time. this card also solos Yummy on some level because you can banish their fields. Their one of field spell that increases all their monsters' attack to over 1,000 to like 3,000 or whatever. They have no way to get back banish recursion yet as of right now with their first wave of support in the TCG. So like this card's like integral for the Yummy matchup, I think, to win it. It's also a second Mirror Jade that is a dragon, so you can very easily make it off of Phymena with like your Altharion plus like an Albion on the board, because it just requires a fusion dragon monster and a level 7 higher fusion monster dragon monster. So you can also like bounce back a Bestial Lubellion that's on the field because they ended up stopping your play or something like that, stuff like that. Also, I do like the Dracotail Flame with the lock because obviously it stops the only out. No one's going to be on Bestials, so that's why I do think it's really broken in that regard. I also still like Branded in white too because it synergizes with the Dracotail cards, right? If you go like normal summon a Luber and then you have like Cartesia and like let's just say like an Urgula or like a Phymena in hand, you could always just, you know, Branded white after they've impermed your Aluber. You could also, in that situation, literally Phymena, which is really nice. Phymena is great for dodging imperm, right? That's why I like the Gwignall, because a lot of the time you can just discard this and then make a Gwignall with, like, the Cartesia and then the Aluber in hand. The Phymena with the Cartesia and then the Aluber trying to use its effect that just got impermed. Also, I will just say right now, if you're looking for a 50 card or 40 card build of this, I will have 2 builds at the end, so stay tuned for that. It's so crazy when you can go like Rahu into Branded Fusion, into like Thrust, into Fusion Deployment. Like you have like 5 layers of board breaking through just Engine alone, so a lot of the time you can just pierce through like Yummy engines and stuff like that. As long as you see like one piece of non-engine, you're definitely winning it, and that's why we're also maining the Droplet. It's just incredible into Yummy, and it's pretty good into VS and the other decks. I'm not running Super Poly anymore because it's kind of hard to justify the discard with the Branded and DT cards because Dracotail is just so card starved, but I could see myself siding Super Poly maybe in the future, so that's something you could consider as well. Let's get into the combos, guys. All right, so this is going to be the 1-card Aluber combo. So basically, we can just go normal summon Aluber, activate the effect, and then go into the Branded Fusion. Hopefully, we don't get impermed as well here, right? And then we can just go Branded Fusion here. And then Branded Fusion is going to send the Albaz plus the Dracotail Muller to the graveyard, because that will bridge our engine together with the Dracotail and the Branded cards. Now we can go Chainlink 1 Lubellion, discarding for cost, one of our discards that we will need for this combo. And then we can go Chainlink 2 Muller to set a Dracotail spell or trap card. So here we can set the Rahu Dracotail. And here we can spin back the Albaz plus the Lubellion to the extra deck to make the Mirror Jade. And now we can use the Rahu Dracotail to send our other discard to the graveyard. That has to be a monster plus your Phymena, and then you will be able to go into the Altharion. And Altharion will then be able to recur the Phymena, and Phymena will then use her effect. You could also get back the Dracotail Muller or one of your discards, right? If one of your discards are like a Bestial or something, you could always get that back too. But you'll just get back the Phymena, and then Phymena will also set the Dracotail Flame. I'm going out of order. So yeah, this is basically the one card Branded combo. Like obviously you need 2 discards, but you get back your card advantage. So this is a nice combo when you already have a Cartesia, I think, in rotation, because Cartesia then can get you to an Albion in graveyard. And if you have like lost access too, then you can get already the Quem access. It really just depends, right? Like usually the Branded 1-card combo alone is like better than this, but like you need to know how they bridge, because a lot of the time you will still go this combo because, you know, the Dracotail Flame is incredible, right? Especially if you're trying to lock. If you have the lock to layer on top of this, I just go in. This is why I go into with Branded Fusion, right? Because then you'll get the spell negate. Also going second, this also board breaks twice, right? You get a bounce on your opponent's turn, or even up to 2 or 3 or 4, and then you also get Muller negate, and then you also have Mirror Jade, right? So that's just all off of 1 card, and then you could still go into your thrust, your fusion deployment, and things like that. So it's a very devastating combo to know how to layer into your otherwise already very good branded combos. So yeah, guys, let's go into the more complicated Rahu plus branded fusion combo. So this is my favorite combo to know, and this is one you can modulate somewhat as well. So all this is going to require is Rahu Dracotail plus branded fusion, and I think technically a discard, but I think the Rahu actually gives you the discard that you need, and this is a crazy combo. So you start with a Luber, go a Luber effect, go branded fusion. You will then go into the branded fusion, and this is pretty important because you want to establish the branded loss. So you're going to do your standard Lubellion line where you go into Albion by sending Fallen of Albaz plus the Bestial Lubellion, and then you will trigger the Albion effect before I accidentally do a coin flip, and then I will banish the Aluber on the field, and then the Albaz in graveyard to go into the Lubellion. And then the Lubellion effect will then discard one of your discards, and then spin itself back plus the Albaz for the Mirror Jade. And now here you can go and importantly tribute over the Albion for the Bestial Lubellion so that you can establish the branded Lost. Bestial Lubellion is going to go into the branded Lost, and then you will be able to then go Rahu Dracotail finally. I think going second, you might want to do this maybe differently because you could go Rahu into Branded Fusion because Rahu board breaks, but going first, I think it's Branded Fusion into Rahu because Branded Fusion also being Ash, like if you have Thrust, it's like totally fine, right? Rahu, if it gets Ash, it's like a little bit worse, I guess, going first. Technically, if you have Thrust, that's all I'm saying, if you have that 3-card combo. But yeah, we'll go Rahu, discard our monster discard for fusion material plus a Fimina, so we can go into the Altharion. We will be able to go Chainlink 1 Altharion to target the Fimina to get back to hand, and then Chainlink 2 Fimina to set a Dracotail spell or trap card from our deck, and then we can go Chainlink 3 Branded Lost, so we can get the Albion, the Shrouded Dragon here. You could also get Mercurier, that's fine, but I think we just search Mercurier on our opponent's turn. We only run one Mercurier anyway, so it's fine for me. And then we can go Ketu Dracotail to be set, and then we can get the Fimina to hand. And now we can go Ketu. Ketu is going to give us the Urgula. Urgula is going to be able to give us back the Fimina here and give us another end board piece. Now we can go into the Fimina effect to then send Urgula plus the Altharion to the graveyard so that we can get rid of some bodies on our board. One of the things that's very important to keep in mind with Branded Dracotail is you can't leave too many bodies on the board because both engines require a couple like spaces on your end board, so you really have to in those situations where there's just a dead Altharion, you'll just have to fuse it off. I think you also sometimes want to keep them on for Philia Regis, but that's just one of those things if you're gonna know that Philia Regis is in your future to keep in mind. So I'll be able to go into the Rommel, which is a target pop when we activate a Dracotail effect, which we will have a couple of those to activate. And now we will be able to trigger the Urgula effect to then set our Dracotail trap card, the Dracotail Flame, which is a face-up spell on the field, and negate its effect until the end phase. And then you can place one Dracotail card from your graveyard or banishment on the top of the deck, except for Dracotail Flame, and draw one card. So this card's incredible. You also don't need a Dracotail card in the graveyard, by the way, because it says you can. So it is just usable without one, so you guys know. And then also the draw is very good for just keeping up card advantage and, for future use for Cartesia and stuff like that. It's also a great way to not lose to Called By on like your Rinbrum or Called By on your Branded in red, right? Because then you can chain it and negate it, or even Forbidden Droplet and things like this. This card's one of the best end board pieces that Branded could have asked for, but then also we are going to be able to go into the Fimina to get back the Urgula to the bottom of the deck and get back Fimina. So this should be a Mercurier, guys. Honestly, I don't think I needed to do the Shrouded here, but I think the Shrouded... So now we can go Shrouded effect, though, and get the Albaz in graveyard, which is very important since we didn't get the Titanclad this turn. So we still need an Albaz in rotation, so that's why we searched out the Shrouded over the Mercurier. I get the draw doesn't matter, and now we can go into the end phase and go into the Albion effect, and then we can get the Branded Banishment. Now we can go into the end phase and then activate the Albion, the Branded Dragon, and then get the Branded in red so it can connect also with the Albaz so that your end board gets even more insane. And now we can give it to our opponent. I'll show you guys how to play out this board a little bit. So basically, you can, activate Femina effect. I mean, like, obviously, when your opponent uses a spell, I think you would try to use the Dracotail Flame first, and then you can then use the Grimmel, right? Or you can try to trigger the Grimmel with the Femina, so then you can at least try to get the Grimmel pop out, so then you can go Femina or to fuse off your Aluber plus Grimmel, and then you can make an Altharion on your opponent's turn, and then you can go Altharion and then Lost to get the Mercurier. An Altharion bounce under Branded Lost is crazy when you're board breaking your opponent or stopping your opponent from playing. And you can also go into the Altharion in the graveyard, since 2 monsters went to the graveyard at the same time, which is basically a fusion summon for another body for things like Philia Regis. So then I do search the Mercurier and revive the Altharion, and then we can get the Femina. Also, the Grimmel can obviously come back if it, and if we didn't use the pop already. And then we can go Mirror Jade effect to then send the Rinbrum to the graveyard and get a banish on our opponent's turn. And now we can go the Rinbrum to summon the Albaz. And then hopefully we have another, we should have a draw off the flame, right? So we can make sure the flame's used by the point you use the Albaz. If these are your only cards, right? So you can have the discard for the Albaz, and then Albaz can discard and then fuse into whatever it might be in Albion, into like Philia Regis or into like Chaos Star Source for a pop 2. But this card's broken against Yummy. If you banish their field spell, that increases their attack points. You basically just solo that deck. They can't really kill you. And then you can go Branded in red, like fusing off the Albaz if you want to. And then also you do get a bounce back from the Philia Regis if you use it, because it is a banish of a spell or trap or monster or card in the graveyard. So, and if it's on the field, you do have to bounce back a card mandatory. So that's what makes it kind of hard. But as you guys see, the standard Branded, as you guys can see, the standard combo with Rahu and Branded Fusion works really well together with it. So now we can go into Branded in red and just like make another Mirror Jade if we want to, by fusing off the Mirror Jade plus the Fallen of Albaz, and then we can go into discarding our Lubellion and then going to another Mirror Jade. Or you could do a Chaos Star Source if you don't run the second Mirror Jade. It just depends if you run the second Mirror Jade or not. And then we also have Mercurier, so that's like 10 plus interruptions just off a Rahu plus a Luber. This is like one of the most broken unboards ever, and that's without locking, by the way. That's without locking, right? All right, so this combo won't be as insane, but this is showing you guys the synergy between Branded Lost plus Rahu Dracotail. So here we can go, if you open Branded Lost plus Rahu and then a monster discard, you can bridge into the Branded engine very easily. We can go Rahu Dracotail, discarding the Thualos, and then sending Femina to the graveyard, and then we get Altharion. We can go Chainlink 1 Altharion to bounce the Femina to hand, and then we can go Chainlink 2 Femina to set a Dracotail spell or trap, and then we can go Chainlink 3 Branded Lost to search a monster that mentions Fallen of Albaz, so we can search the Springen's Kit. We can then set the Ketsu Dracotail, and then we can get back the Femina to the hand, and then we can go into the kit to then get the Branded Fusion, and then we can spin back the Femina here, and then we can go into the Ketsu Dracotail to then search back out the Femina that we just spun back. And so we have a discard, and then we can go Branded Fusion. Branded Fusion, we will send the Shrouded plus the Albaz to the graveyard so that we can get the Lubellion. And then this is very important to send the Shrouded plus Albaz, because you need 2 Albaz names so you can actually have more interruptions on your opponent's turn. And you can discard the Femina here, or if you have a different discard, obviously that's preferable, because then we can go into the Mirror Jade, and then on our opponent's turn, we can obviously have a banish in Mirror Jade, send the Rinbrum to the graveyard, and then Rinbrum can target the Albaz. Since the Shrouded that we spun back counted as an Albaz, so we could keep the real Albaz in the graveyard, so that we could have a real interruption, which is a fuse off, plus then we can go into like a Philia Regis or a Chaos Star Source, which is going to be another pop 2 or banish. So it's just, this is why Branded Lost and like a lot of these cards just synergize very well, and I felt like those were the 3 most important combos. Once again, if you guys want to see more different, like really in-depth combos, once again, get this video to 150 likes. and we will do that there because there are locking combos with Sanctifier and Ido, right? Like, so yeah, guys, what did you think of Dracotail Branded? I'm gonna have my full IRL deck profile obviously out in like a week or two. I will be competing in a remote regional, also might go to my local OTS that is happening in a week if I get the cards. So hopefully I'm gonna do well with the deck and have a good report for you guys, but I will have the IRL list where we can go a bit more in depth, have like a yapping about Branded, about this deck, and then just talk about more of the in-depth stuff. If you guys want to see that, let me know down below. What do you think of Dracotail Branded? Have I convinced you? I know I didn't show any locking combos. The locking combos really are like 3 to 4 to 5 card combos in like games 2 and 3, where you have Nadir and Fusion Dupe in the deck, right? Like, I think this card is also very good though. When you have like Thrust, you get hand trapped, you get like the free duplication, and then also once again when you just have 4 to 5 card combos going first, which happens. So it is just when you have like 3 to 4 to 5 card combos going first, I think that happens. I still think it's useful. I don't think you need it in the main, but I do think you will get outgassed, let's just say, against like K9 if you don't have a Light and Darkness Dragon Lord. So I would just rather main it than side it, because I'm not maining the Light and Darkness Dragon Lord. You can, but I just think Banishment's really awkward because once again, you just can't run too high of a propensity of bricks in Branded, and you know some of the Dracotail cards are already kind of bricky, so it's just like Rahu isn't though. Rahu's a starter, Ketu's so good, Ketu on bricks hands, and you know, right, like Tragedy plus Rahu goes crazy. So there's just, this deck is very good. I think it's Branded, it's a straight buff to Branded. I think it is better than the other Dracotail variants. I think the only other one is probably K9 Dracotail, because that deck does a lot and it could use the monsters very well. But this version also just makes an unbreakable end board, and then also it doesn't play into really the K9 cards. You could technically like take out the Mulch Armies, but I think you need the monsters for the Dracotail cards, so I'm choosing to run the Mulch Armies. I think everything in here is basically needed. I've tested this list very extensively. I think there's only a few things you could change. That's basically the non-engine, you know, whether you're running 1 or 2 Quem or 2 or 3 Cartesia. I think the rest is pretty mandatory. Like, I think Brand White is so important because this is how you can break boards going second. Like, you have like 5 card engine hand, you break the board because of Branded and White, and you wouldn't otherwise without Branded and White in some situations. So it just catches people off guard, because if you use Brand White, you just have an Albaz in graveyard and then something in hand like a Draco, like a Muller or something. Like, you can send the Muller to the graveyard, banish the Albaz, make Lubellion, and then like Muller effect like Chainlink 2, Chainlink 1 Lubellion, like play around Ghostfall and stuff like that. It's just, and then also board break. It's just like, it is a straight buff to Branded. Like, honestly, the cards just work so well for the Branded engine, so that's why we're running that tight, you know, Dracotail engine. I don't think, you know, the other Dracotail cards are too needed. Like, once again, I think Lucius is something you could run at 1 potentially, but it's too many normal summons with a Luber, and I think Cartesia is just a better normal summon a lot of the time, or Quem a lot if you have like any other card. And then also the Pan is pretty good because it destroys a face-up monster on the field, which is pretty good. And then also it has like a fun effect when a fusion monster is destroyed by opponent's card effect. You can special summon 1 non-fusion Dragontail monster from your graveyard, so you could potentially summon the Muller to then Muller. So you can run one of these. I wouldn't blame you. Urgla is just so good, like I said, so like I could see you running 2 maybe, but it's a bit bricky. In the Dragontail Horn, I know people will be asking me about this if I don't mention it. I just don't think it's very good. It's target 1 attack position monster on the field, return to the hand. Your opponent can put it into defense position if they know you have it until it matters, so it's just not that good in my opinion. I think this is way more proactive on Dracotail Flame. You never had a spell negate in Branded before until, I mean, you have the Blazing Branded King, but the Blazing Branded King also has its own issues. I think it's a little bit of a slow card, and this card draws a card. It's highly searchable. Like, you just go through the Dracotail engine, you do it, right? So that's why I prefer that card. And you could run a 50 card list. I will show you guys my 50 card list right now. Now, if I know some people will be asking me for 50 or 40 card lists. This is a 50 card list that you guys can take from. It has Super Poly 2, because I think Super Poly is way better into the older decks. I think it's better into Malice. I think it's better into Mitsu. So I think until a ban list hits, I think Super Poly might just be better than Droplet. I think Droplet's better into the new decks. But you could look into a build like this, especially if you don't like the 60 card builds. I think this is just fine to do it like this as well. There shouldn't be a second fusion duplication. It should just be a second Saronir. We could probably just go 3 Saronir over the Magnuma at that point and just run a really clean build like this. I think this is a really clean way to run the 50 card build just without running the extra gas for sure. This is obviously, and then we have the 41 card build from the deck profile or from the guide the other day, so this hasn't changed much. This is something that you could do as well. And once again, consider double Chaos Star Source. This card's broken, but I think Philia Regis has a lot of staying power in it. Also, Secretarion Dragon. This card's okay. It is really good against Dracotail. A lot of the time, they will make it against you if you know you're going against pure Dracotail, but it's largely a card you can out with your non-engine if you see, like, any form of non-engine. And then also, I don't think it's worth the slot necessarily in the 60 card build, and this is the build I would recommend. So I'm just showing you guys kind of the progression. This is the build that ended up working the best in testing. Showed you guys the combos. Those are what the combos are for. If you want to see more of that 40 card build, the link will be down below if you haven't already seen that, if you're more interested in a pure Dracotail build with some Albaz in it. So with that being said, guys, I appreciate your support. Thank you all for watching the video today. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Comment down below what you guys thought of the video. Leave a like down below. Once again, if this video gets 150 likes, we will do 3 more combos showing you guys off those lock-in combos. Check out my Dracotail branded and Master Yu-Gi-Oh spreadsheet on my website at MetaGamesGX.com to see even more combos, and I update it monthly, of course. Comment down below what you guys thought. Leave a like. Subscribe today. We're on the road to 20,000 subscribers, and with that being said, see you guys later. Love you guys. Bye.